Brian Burke joining us. Burkey, it's been too long. I hope the break was good. I wish we had better things to talk about here, but how are you? How are things?
Good. Everything's good. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
No, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Let's start with the World Juniors. We're Rash and I. We'll blow through the rock paper scissors discussion. World Juniors. Are you getting more skeptical by the day here? I mean, we're all skeptical about a lot of things. I realize that, but the World Juniors specifically, they don't have a lot of room for error here anymore, do they?
No, but I think they're going to exhaust every single opportunity to play, and I mean that's a major tournament. That's a milestone for a young player, a famous young player, like a top Canadian kid or a top Swiss kid. Like that's a memory that you'll never, ever, ever forget. So I exhaust all the remedies, see if you can play, see if there's any way you can humanly play this tournament. I like what they're doing.
Brian, if you're a GM of a team, especially in COVID right now, and if you're drafting top 5, top 10, even a first-round pick, would you let him go to the World Juniors right now? Or do you want to keep him under lock and key in your own facility based on everything going on in the world?
No, my kids all played, and not just the World Junior, World Championships. I believe best on best tournaments like the World Junior Championships are such a formative, such an important, like a mold for a kid. It's a short tournament. It's important to win. You got to play your best. You got to get in tight with teammates in a short time. Like all those leadership lessons you get, that team effort you get, are so valuable. So I'd say, guys, you're going to the tournament. I remember one year, Eddie Jovanovski might remember this differently, but I don't think so. He and Tom Bertuzzi went the same year, I think, and they were both banged up. You know, they're both physical players. They're both banged up. And I said, look, you're going. If I have to come to your house and drive you to the airport, you're going. And they both went and came back and said it was the best experience they ever had. Then Eddie went on to play the Olympics in Salt Lake City. So to me, these tournaments have great value for young players. So yes, I'd make them all go.
Brian Burke here on Tim and Sid. What do you read, Brian, into the Rangers' decision? I know you're not in that room. It's impossible for you to know. But what can we take anything from that news that was just released that Alexis Lafreniere won't be going to Red Deer in Edmonton in terms of the NHL's future? Is there a there there, do you think?
No, I don't get it. Jeff Gordon's a friend of mine. I love him. I think it's incredibly short-sighted. As I said, like the crucible, just imagine, like, okay, so you guys, I don't know how good of athletes you were as kids, but I was never a guy, I would have never got picked to play in a tournament like this. I would have pulled my front teeth out to play in this tournament. And the lessons you learn and the crucible that this becomes, where you jam in these guys, okay, 20 strangers, 20 Canadian kids, and we have to form a team and identify leadership groups and beat these other great teams. Like, I think it has great, great, great value, like value that will go on for decades with this kid. I don't get it. So Jeff Gordon's a friend of mine. It's his player. He can do what he wants. I don't get it.
Brian, let's talk NHL. What are you hearing on when camps may start and when a season may begin?
Well, you know what, my friend? I'm skeptical and nervous for the first time.
Wow. Really?
Like I think we absolutely need to play. Like, people forget Canada. Like, the sport will come back. We get a vaccine. We get back on our calendar. We're all good.
Yeah.
But I worry about some of the markets. The unemployment rates in some U.S. states are so high. The COVID rates are so high. I worry about our ability to bounce back. I think we have to play. And I'm nervous for the first time because I've disputed these figures right from the start. Like, you guys know this. I think it's easy to second guess things in the media. And I've never respected people who did it at their leisure. We've tried to call all this stuff in real time. And I said back in April, the players are going to have to take a 45% rollback. And now they're like, oh, we'll do a 20% cap on escrow and a 10% deferral. I'm like, that ain't going to do it, guys. Escrow is going to be at 50%. Like, these numbers don't work. And when they made the memorandum of understanding in March, they were like, okay. And I said at the time, these numbers don't work. Like, they're 50-50 partners. And this is not a classic collective bargaining case. They have a deal. They're 50-50 partners. Now, if the owners lose 50% of their revenues, which they have, the players are going to have to take a bigger haircut. Like, I don't get it. I don't get why this isn't obvious to everybody. And now it's become, oh, well, you sucked us in March. You signed this MOU, and now 4 months later, you want to rip it up. I'm like, 4 months later, the math is different, guys, and they've got a force majeure clause. Understand this. The owners have the right to not play, and then players don't get any money, zero. So to me, it's like the Billy Preston song, nothing from nothing leaves nothing. You are better off playing and getting a percentage of your salaries than not playing. And that's going to be the choice that's forced on the owners here, which I think is a catastrophe.
Brian Burke here on Tim and Sid. Brian, having dealt with so many owners and understanding it from a league standpoint and as a team executive, Elliot was on with us yesterday. He said he has heard upwards of 10 to 12 owners are fine not playing, would maybe even prefer not to play. What does that mean?
Well, first off, just so people know, because it's funny, people ask me, do I like Elliot? And we seem to have some tension on the air.
Well, I think we could figure it out. Yeah. I don't think you do.
I love the guy.
Oh, okay.
I love the guy.
I misread
and
that.
I think he's brilliant. And people talk to him. When Elliot talks, he is speaking to owners that, like, there's no idle talk with Elliot. When he goes on the air,
it's informed, sourced speaking. There's
Absolutely.
no question.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
He's getting whispered right into his ear. I've talked to a couple owners who clearly do not want to play. Now, will they play if Gary says it's what we need to do for the league and for broadcast partners and all that? Yeah, they will. But Elliot's right. Like my information, I've confirmed this independently. I'm not an insider like Elliot, but I had a GM sit across from me, 5 feet away from me, and say, if we play, we'll lose $60 million. If we don't play, we'll lose 15. Now, I got news for you guys. You don't have to be a math expert to figure that one out. Which is a better outcome for that owner? You don't really need to have a lot of math skills to figure out 60 versus 15. Yeah, I think 15 is probably better. So this is a real problem. And like I say, I don't understand why this is hard. Like, you're 50-50. And yes, you've got your MOU. You can say, oh, you signed the MOU in March, and now you want to renegotiate the deal. Yes, because you're a 50-50 partner. It's not renegotiation,
but Burke,
it's recalculating.
Burke, you are a graduate of Harvard Law School. I'd like to remind the listening and the viewing audience, we are on the line with a smart cookie, okay?
And a Rhodes Scholarship finalist, by the way.
No need to show
By the
off.
way,
I was good
it
enough
took me
at Harvard
5
Law,
years.
whatever.
It took me 5 years to do undergrad at Bishop's University. So, okay, so both of you can just back off.
Whatever. 2 years Radio Humber. Suck it.
Yeah.
Burke, my main point here is let's say Brian Burke was not in hockey and was practicing at the law firm of Burke and Gambino, okay? You are a practicing lawyer. Someone walks into your office and says, Burke, I signed a contract with this person 5 months ago, but the rules around it are, quote, no longer applicable, end quote. Can I get out of it? How long before you laugh that person out of your office? How long?
I'll tell you how long. Show me the document, because you know what the document contains? A force majeure clause that says the league has the right to not play.
You don't think the league's bluffing on that? You don't think the league's
No,
bluffing
they're
on
not.
that?
I saw a copy of the document.
No, I'm not saying it's not there. I'm just saying as a tool to scare, as a tool to intimidate.
It's a tool to scare. We're days away. Like, we're going to run out of time here. It's not time to scare anybody. Jesus, Murphy. Look, you can't. You look at the numbers. I said this in April. The players are looking at a 45% wage rollback. I said this in April. I don't know why it's not obvious today. And they're saying, oh, you're renegotiating. You signed the deal on March 10th, and these agents are all popping off. I'm like, hang on, guys. I have seen a copy of that. I haven't seen the whole deal, but I saw a copy of that clause, which is the force majeure clause. The league retained the right to not play. So they can argue all they want. Oh, you're renegotiating. You're renegotiating. You're doing this. You're doing that. The fact is, they could say, we're shutting her down, boys. We're shutting her down. We're not playing at all. They have that right. The union gave them that right. So this is not idle talk. We are at the precipice here. We're on a cliff. And the players are going to have to decide if they want to play or not.
Brian, which of the Gambinos that you have the law firm with speaks like that? Which of them has that cadence in their voice?
I would say it's Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe. Remember the three students?
Yes.
Their law firm was Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe.
Yes, Burke. The one and only Brian Burke here with the Rash McDaniel 660. Rash, go ahead.
So, Brian, look, you're worrisome. You're skeptical. How does this get sorted?
Well, what you hope is at some point, you hope someone steps up in front of the mob and says, guys, here are the options. The options are we don't play or we take a deeper pay cut. And so to me, if I'm making $5 million, say I'm Morgan Riley, I think he makes around $5 million, I've got to prorate my salary. So here's the thing. They're not talking about playing 80 games. You're not talking about the same value. It's okay, Arash, I'm going to pay you $5 million for 80 games, but now we're only playing 60. Can you take a pay cut? No. It's like, well, yeah, you should. So it's proration. It's no fans. It's adjust, and hopefully cooler heads will prevail. We will play. Players will take a larger pay cut. If they can defer some of that, that's great. I love the notion of the NHL could maybe turn that U.S. TV deal into something. It'll be a flat cap for 7 years, though, boys. Okay, I'm in favor of anything. I don't want the players to take that whole haircut, but the position they're taking now is, in my mind, absurd. It's illogical. It's indefensible. In front of you, pick any jury, the most pro-labor jury in Canada,
really,
and I'll win this case.
Burke, I'm blown away by that. I mean, you were right. This story's moving by the day. I get it. I understand. We're all living in it, and we're all in the same place, basically. But for ownership to say 5 months ago they assumed arenas would be filled by January 1st is folly. You were saying it. It's complete folly. And to suggest, well, things have changed to that extent, I would challenge that. I would say
because everybody knew a second wave was coming.
We all knew. But we all knew it would still be really dicey to get fans in arenas for that revenue by at least late January. Never mind January 1st.
Hang on. What do you say things have changed? Nothing's changed. The circumstances have gotten worse. But the deal was 50-50. It's not like they said to the players, here's the deal. You take a 20% cap on escrow and a 10% deferral, and that's that. They're still 50-50 partners. That was on March 10th or whatever the date was. Here's what we estimate the pie's going to be like. Here's how we'll split it up. Now it's very different. And so you can say it's only 4 months difference, 5. Maybe they were absurd assumptions. But guess what? You're a 50-50 partner. You can't say we didn't know. You can't say we're going to ignore the fact that conditions are worse. You're a 50-50 partner. It's not like making a new deal where I say to you, hey, Sid, you know that deal we made? I really don't like that deal, so we're going to make a new deal. It's not that. What I'm saying is I'm enforcing the 50-50, and you are taking a bigger pay cut. So people may not like it. They may not like the optics. It may smell funny to people, but the fact is they're in an economic system where they're 50-50 partners, and they're going to have to find a way to make this work. They're going to owe the owners so much money. If they insist on this deal, they're going to owe the owners $600 million at the end of the season. Which means
and to the layman's hockey fan, which means the cap stays where it is, if not goes down for the next how many years, Berkey? Like how would that work?
Yeah, flat for 7 years.
Like a long time.
Flat. Yeah. You're gonna baptize kids that aren't born yet. You're gonna have confirmations for kids that aren't born yet on this deal with a flat cap. And so at some point you say, okay, we don't want to owe the owners $800 million. Let's all. And the other thing too is they're trying to shift this burden onto future classes, right? They're trying to say, well, we'll repay some of this money in 4 years. Well, guess what? There's 3 to 4 new guys on a team every year. So they're trying to shift this burden, this economic burden, onto players who aren't even in the league yet. That's not fair.
Yeah. Brian Burke here on Tim and Sid. There's so much there, Berkey. You've been fantastic with us, but you mentioned Elliott and how good he is. So let's end it this way because he did throw out something earlier this afternoon, and I'll just read the Friege tweet. Friege wrote, I'm not sure if it's possible, odds are against it, but 4 NHL teams are looking to the possibility of playing home games outdoors. Can't fault anyone for considering their options. Friege in the column goes on to say it's Boston, based on his reporting, Pittsburgh, the Kings, and Anaheim. And the Kings do have ownership of an MLS stadium, which could potentially work. Berkey, if we're talking, earlier you were talking about owners saying, here's what we lose if we play, here's what we lose if we don't play. What would it cost to put on an outdoor game in reference
Okay.
in the context of this economic situation we're in.
Okay, I want to come back though before we leave this, Sid.
Okay.
You're spouting this pro-union argument about
I'm not.
4 months.
I'm
Yes, you
not.
are.
I'm not. I'm
Yes,
just
you are.
saying. I
me
know
finish.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
You're spouting this 4 months ago. It's absurd to assume this. And I don't want you giving hope to a group that's going to get stepped on hard if they don't come around, in my view. My view is that the owners have the last say on this because they've got the force majeure clause. We should all be looking for solutions now, not trying to win an argument that it's absurd that they thought there would be full building. You might be right, but winning an argument right now is not the key. We need solutions. Now, outdoor games,
Yes.
Elliott is brilliant. They've clearly discussed this. I agree with everything. You can all throw it right in the trash. That's not a viable option for anything. The reason outdoor games are successful is they're novelty items. They're once in a million. I played the first big game that I played in was Team USA in the World Championships. We played in Schalke's soccer stadium, 76,000 fans. It was a record at the time. And it was a big deal. It was a really cool thing. Forget it. It's not a viable option. People are not going to go to 4 outdoor games. They like going to 1. It's not a viable option, but everyone's turning over every stone. So Elliott's right, but forget it. Just throw it out.
Brian, let's go back to the force majeure clause real quick. And let's go back to what Elliott mentioned. If 10 or 12 owners become 15 or 20 owners, if hockey doesn't get played this season, and Gary yesterday came out, the commissioner of the National Hockey League told Sports Business Journal, we expect it to be all systems go for the 2021-2022 season. Effectively, by fall of 2021, we expect quote-unquote normalcy. What happens? Do players not get paid for this upcoming season and then it's business as usual? Or what kind of financial impact could there be down the road if there is not a season this year?
Okay, so my prediction is the contracts toll, so they lose a year. The players don't get paid and they lose a year. So that season is gone now. So if you're on a 5-year deal, you're on a 4-year deal going forward. And there's going to be pay cuts going into the next season. You're not going to have full buildings at the same ticket prices. There's going to be a pay cut going forward, but hopefully back to some semblance of normalcy. But you lose the year, you don't get paid, and you lose that contract year. So if you're Alex Pietrangelo, you just signed a 7-year deal, you got 6 years left, pal. You got 6 years. 1 year is gone. And that's going to be the league's position, and I think it'll be the right position that they've lost a year, and we're not carrying these contracts forward. They're tolling a year. We're taking a year off. I think it's a disaster. We have to figure out a way to play.
I'm with you. Like it's. I think we're all on the same page there. Got to play. Play.
Quit preaching the union.
I'm just saying. I understand why some players are upset over this development. I understand your points. But I do understand others out there. And for the record, I think the players have been pretty restrained here. I haven't seen many, unless I'm missing something. Arash, unless I'm missing something in terms of tweeting and whatnot.
Okay, by the way, they have been restrained. You know why? Can you imagine the first guy that says, I want to get paid for 80 games even though I'm playing 60, and I refuse to take a pay cut even though my owner is going to lose half his revenues. I insist on getting my paycheck. That's why they've been muted, because it's absurd and it's offensive.
Just don't do it on Twitch.
Yeah, don't do it on Twitch or TikTok.
2 tweets, Berkey, before we let you go. Adrian tweeted in, Brian Burke quoting Billy Preston lyrics just blew my mind. That was earlier in the segment. And Sandra at Tim and Sid, who's a devoted listener and viewer, and we love her, says, I love listening to Brian Burke on Tim and Sid. When he yells, Jesus Murphy, he sounds just like my mom with a deeper voice. So, Sandra, thank you very much for that. Berkey, let's do this again. Friend.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.